Okay, let's start. The focus of the session is for the beginner to intermediate PineScript coders and those who know how to code but not familiar with the PineScript to an extent. So I'm trying to bridge that gap. And we did a survey and we said we're going to do the PO3 one higher time frame candle. So I'm going to walk through how I write my code and explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And hopefully that will give you a good idea of how I do my indicators. Now we're going to do it in an object-oriented way. If you're not familiar with it, I'll go ahead and I'll explain it as part of the walkthrough. Let's get started. So the first thing I do in my script, well, obviously, first thing we need to do is give it a name. So let's say PO3, and we're going to do max bars back. I always put max bar back 5,000. And the reason I define it is because sometimes when your indicator is running, it gives some errors saying PineScript could not determine the length and please specify max bars back. And I don't want to have users running into it, so I just automatically put it there. It may affect performance, I'm not 100% sure, but I've always put it there. The other ones are max boxes count. By default, it's 50. I always like to make it 500. And max lines equal to 500 and max labels equal to 500. And the last one is overlay equal to true. Order doesn't matter. Now, you know what we're doing here. We're saying max number of lines. I'm sorry, max look back. So the PineScript, we're going to go ahead, look back up to 5,000 bars back. You can go to, if you have premium, you can go to 10,000, but because not everyone on premium, I will set it for 5,000. And you really don't need that many, but just in case, I just set it there. And again, boxes, lines, and labels, I set them to 500. That's the maximum we're allowed to have in one indicator. Remember that there's also another limitation. If you are on a chart and you have multiple indicators and all of them have boxes, at some point, TradingView may cap it just for performance. I haven't run into that issue, but I know that they have uncommunicated limit there. Okay, so after that, so the way I write my code, I always start with types, and types are where you define your signature for the objects. So for example, when you say type bar, so what I want to do here, I want to create an object called bar, and then you can define a parameters for it. For example, I can say open, and you can define a default value over here, or you can do it later. So for example, I can say that equal to open, float high equal to high, float high, low, and let's say float. You get that. But the advantage of doing something that like that is that now I can say, for example, bool is bullish and say equal to closed higher than open. Cannot do that here. I'll have to do that in after I declare it. So now after that, you can say, for example, bar open high, close, open high, low close. Let's give it underscore for it equal to bar.new. So what that will do, we're creating an object. We can collect all the data we want inside it, and then we can create a new instance of it. I can create multiple objects here with the same code, and they all have their own separate instances of bar, and we'll have those values. So over here, then I can say, for example, log.info bar values 0, 1, 2, and 3, for example, and then I can reference him by saying bar dot open bar dot high and so forth. So you'll be able to bar open high low close. Sorry, so you have to give it the actual name of the variable. There you go. And you can set values for it. For example, is bullish. So now I can say open high low close dot is bullish equal to, I can use the same variable that close higher than. So you can create your types and collect data in them. And now all what you have to do is have one variable and use it moving forward. So the way I use this type of setting is basically I start with my setting values, and I always have in my scripts type settings. And I'll specify whatever I want to have in there. So for example, I can have bool show, say bool int maximum bars backs, for example, if we want to define that. And we're doing power 3, so we need float open high. I'm sorry, we're doing the settings. So let's say color body bool, color body bear. Let's say, let's do border, color border, string border size, and style, not style, and border size, and I'll do the same thing for Wix. And we'll add to it if we need to. So you start with your default, whatever set of settings you want to collect, and you put them there basically for you to collect data. Now, traditionally, the way most people write their code, for example, they would say, for example, Boolean show PO3 equal to input dot bool, let's say true, show PO3, for example. Many people do something like this, and they will list their variables here. The problem is that you always have to remember this is setting, the next one is setting, and so forth. For example, max bars. My tab always gets me. Equal to input dot int, say 5, for example. We gotta do 1, but we'll put 5. Max bars. Okay. And you have to remember what all these are. And every time you reference them, you need to remember what's the variable, you go look for it, and so forth. So what I do, I prefer to do something else. So I do settings, that's lowercase setting, equal to settings dot new. Okay. And now I have an object. And instead of doing this, so now I can say settings dot show equal to that. Settings dot max. I already know what max is because it's part of my settings. settings dot bool color equal to color dot input dot color dot green body equal to body group line equal to body. Do the same thing. Come on. So this is basically saying I want to have color green with 10% transparency. So opacity is 90%. And I do the same thing for bull bear for the border. I have one border color, border and width. We'll come back if we have time. We'll do the other settings for it, which are the style and size. But when you do that, and I can save this one here, save it. We'll add it to chart. Now we need to have plot. You always have to have an output. So we have to have a plot, update chart. Now I have my body, but the labels will fix the labels, but you'll have your settings here. Let's see, settings, body, I'll take this here, blank, border, line, border, line width. Call this one width. Okay, that's better. And you'll have them there. Now I can have border, bullish, bearish, wick, bullish, bearish. You can do all of that if you need to. But for my coding, anytime I need that, now I can say settings dot, and I reference any of them. So I don't have to look, remember what they are, and so forth. The other thing I can do is that I can attach this setting to specific other types. So for example, in my higher time frame candles, I do higher time frame settings, and I have the list once. And then for first set, second set, third set, I just assign that setting to each set. So now each one have its own settings, even though they have the exact same parameters. So that gives us the settings. The other thing we need is the actual object itself. So we can say, for example, candle setting, type candle. Because we can kind of do power 3. So we need to know if we're doing power 3, there is a high, open, close, low. So we need to track those. And for that, so we need float high, float open, float close. And you can give those names as part of the candle object. They're not going to conflict with actual open close because those are attribute names, not the values. Float low. And next comes tracking. Since you're doing candles and you want to draw it, and you may want to connect the link back to where did it start and so forth. So what you can do in here is track the actual, for example, high index if you want, and so forth. But I prefer to do time, because if you're dealing with higher time frames and, for example, you link 1 minute to daily, if you have multiple candles, one of them could be way too far and you cannot link it. It's going to be more than 500 bars back and it's going to give you an error. So I use the time. I always try to draw my lines using time instead of bar index. 4, so give them open. Close. Okay. So now we have two different objects. We created settings and the candle object we want to track. Feel free to ask me any questions if you guys have questions. Okay. Now, so we have settings, we have the candles, we need to create the candle objects. I'm going to assume we may create later on more than one candle. We said here we're going to do a maximum of 5. So next comes whatever variable declaration we want to do. So you need to have var candle array candles equal to array.new candle. So we just created a collection of candles in here. One of the common bugs I always run into, I forget to put the var here, and candles keeps resetting to 0. So you need to make sure you have var in front of it so that it tracks the settings per instances. It doesn't matter. If you don't have the word var, it's going to reset it on every script execution. Every tick, the whole script is going to run. If there's no var, it's going to reset the variable and assign it to new set. If you put the word var, it's going to maintain that list. So when I add first one and then add second one, if without var, it's always going to be index 0 and does not maintain history. And we can do some other things. One of the other variables I usually have is color, transparent. Something I got used to from old days, so I always have that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you put, for example, 8 zeros, that gives it black transparent. The first 6 says whatever the color is. The last 2 saying it's 100% opacity, so it's transparent. You can put any value here. You can put them FFFF, doesn't matter for white. And that's just a color transparent. And from there, so we have objects, we have the settings. Now I start looking into what methods and functions I want to create. Common function I always have, I have it here on the side. Let me just copy it in here, is line style, because I don't want to remember typing it or type it every time. So I always copy it and paste it from one of my scripts. So let's say here we have functions. Okay. And I can convert a style to a line style using switch command. Next are the methods. Now, methods was introduced, types and methods were introduced in version 5 and on in Pine scripts. Anything version 4 and before did not have that. And that's why you see a lot of scripts are just flat type of presentation or coding structure. And what a method is, it allows you to attach a function to an object itself. So usually when you're doing, for example, line dot, and you get all those parameters. So think of this as these are methods of line. And if you have different instances of line, all of them will have different values or different ways. Same method, you can execute it on different objects. And an object can have attributes, which are these attributes, and now you can attach different functions to them. So let's say, for example, when I create a method, you start the method by saying method, and same type of structure. It's just that you start with method. Let's call add. We need an add function. The first parameter of the method, what are you attaching it to? So in this case, I want to do candles array, call it this. candle. Okay, so what this is doing is I'm creating add function, its method, and I want to attach it to object of type candle. First parameter you put here, we will not see as parameters of the object itself. And I'm calling it this just because kind of standard coding naming that we used to use in different languages. And you can give it different parameters. For example, float, open, float, sale, better than conflicts, open, high, float, close. And you can give it other parameters. So you do that, and now in here, we can say, I want to create, because it's an add. So what we do, say candle equals to candle.new. I'm creating a single instance of candle type, okay? Because I want to track different candles, and I'm saying I want to add a new candle. So I want to create one of those candle objects and say candle.high equal to high. Let's see, open candle.low, low, closed. Now candle.high time equal to time. So I didn't have to pass them here. I'm passing them here just to show you how to do it. Because it's a candle, is going to execute right on the current candle, so you'll always be able to capture those. I open. Close. So now we have a function that does create a new candle. Every time we say we want to add a new object, we're going to create a candle and associate it with, populate its parameters. And we're going to add it to the candles collection. So we're passing it here as this. So we say this dot unshift candle. What does this do? Let's see. When we call method add, and we're going to call the method add whenever we have a new hard time frame candle just started. For example, if we are on 1 minute and we want to track 15 minutes, every time 15 minute, a new 15-minute candle starts, we will call the method add. Method add is going to create a new candle object for the new 15-minute candle. Is going to populate it with the initial values, and is going to add it to the candles collection, which we're calling it this, because within this method, when you call this, you're actually referencing candles object here, which has given it an alias. Within this function, this is an alias for that. And then we're adding it to that collection using unshift. You have two ways of doing it. I use unshift and pop, which means every time there's a new candle added to the start of the array, and whenever you want to move one, you remove the end of the array one. That I do it this way just to stay consistent with objects. So 0 is always the last candle. I don't have to go look up the size and get last candle to represent the latest candle. So I do unshift here. You can do push and unshift to get rid of older candles, doing it the other way, which is adding it to the end and then removing one at the beginning. So because we want to do maximum of 5 candles, 5 bars, we need to check if this dot size. Now, why can I do this? Because this one is the actual array itself. So I can check the size. If size is greater than settings.max candle temp equal to this.pop. Okay. And I can do cleanup here. We'll come back to this one. So what this is saying, every time we have a new 15-minute candle, come and create a new 15-minute candle, add it to the array. If the array size is more than the maximum size configured, which is 5, then remove the oldest item. So now there will always be up to 5 items here, because if there are more than 5, remove 1. So now you guarantee there's 5. I do a pop into temp, because what I'm going to come back and do later on is, and I'm going to say temp dot, for example, whatever line high dot delete. We're going to do that after we start drawing objects. Okay. And at the end, you can say this, return the object itself. That allows you to serialize them. The other method is that we need an update, method update. Same thing, candle this. And again, guys, if you have questions, feel free to ask me. So let's say same parameters. And let's say we need end close time. So we have an add. So every time we have a new candle, we're going to add it. But now we need something to update that candle. So we create another method we want to associate it with that object. And we're going to say candle equal to this dot first. Okay. What are we doing here? We have an array of candles of type object. We are going, every time there's a 15-minute candle, we're going to insert at the beginning. If there's more than 5, we're going to remove the last one. And every time we want to update it, the latest one, we just inserted at the beginning. At the start of the 15 minutes, we created a new object with default values. Now, every time there's an update, we're going to come back and update that first candle. So we get it from the array candles. And we can say now, let's see, if we're going to do an update. So we want to check if, first we need to check it's not empty. Because if this is empty, the first run is going to give an error. So we'll say if this dot size equal to 0, return this else. Or you can do the other way around, which basically if this is greater than 0, same thing. So if the array is not empty, grab the first one. And now we need to update it. So we say candle.high equal to if this high greater than our candle high, then use the high, otherwise keep the candle high. And what we're doing here is because we want to continue to update the latest candle. So every time there's an update, we check, do we have a new high? If yes, update the candle high. If not, just keep the same value. And we do the same for, let's see, candle dot, actually, we're tracking the high opens. Because we want to track where we opened it. So let's say if high greater than candle.high, let's do it this way. So candle high equal to high, and candle.high time equal to time. That way we'll update what time was the high bar detected. So this will give us, if you're looking at actual chart, I'm just going to assume this is a 15-minute candle. So right now, when this was created, this candle was created, we created a new object with default values, which is going to be like just pure line. All of them are going to be this. It went up Now we have a high. So we have open, high. We have a low and close. Close keeps moving. We'll track wherever the close is. High will only update it when we go above that value. Then we will say, okay, we have a new high at that time. And that references the lower time frame candle. And I'll do the same for low. If low less than candle dot low, candle dot low. And this will make sense in a minute. Candle dot low time. When did we get the low? It's going to be current time, or you can even use the close time if you want to, because that one, it just happened, so that will always be the current time. And close. Close, we don't need to compare it because close is whatever the current candle is. So candle dot close equal to close, and candle dot close time equal to close time. Now again, because this is a live update, you don't need to pass them as parameters. I'm passing them as parameters just for demonstration. Usually I would just say high here and low, because it's a live update from the chart. So the same values here and here are the same. And basically they are the same values. Now, this is an update. Candle already exists. I don't need to do a shift or basically check the size. So that's all I need to do. And I can return the value this. It's the same object. So those are methods. This is how basically you create your methods. When the code executes for those new to Pine, it will load all those variables, all those settings in PineScript. Basically, they'll compile it into their own execution logic. So far, nothing here is executable. They assigned a variable. We did assign values. We declared a function. We declared a method add. We declared the method update. We're going to need another method called render. And we'll come back and update it in few. And we need same parameter. Turn this. Come back and update in a minute. But I just want to put the methods there. So usually those are the methods I have. I have a way I always want to add for higher time frames to collect the data, and I want to update. And again, what that does is that at the beginning of, let's say I am on 1 minute. At the beginning of the candle time, so this is 30 minutes. Let's walk through this. When this one started, the minute it opens, it's going to create add, and it's going to put open, high, low, close here. As this candle moves up and down, it's going to call an update. Update, update, update. Everything is update up until we get to 12:45, 12:44. 12:45 will create a new add function, and new candle is going to happen. Okay. And I know this is kind of a little bit difficult to follow, but it'll make sense in a minute. So now we need to call this stuff. How do we call this method, and what do we do with it? So what you need to do is that, say, for example, we want to check if higher time frame changed, and we need a time frame, high time frame. Let's say string high time frame. I don't want to hard code it, so we'll just make it a variable, hard variable time frame. So let's say settings dot higher time frame equal to input dot time frame. Let's give it 15. Time frames are strings. And text is time frame. Actually, let's leave text blank and say inline equal to high time frame. I usually do them this way in my scripts. because there is no need description. We already know exactly what it is. So I'll just leave it. So now we have a hard time frame. So now in here, we can say those are the methods. So now we need the main function where logic executes. Main logic. So all of these are configuration for your script. Nothing happens here except configuring it. And in here, this is where the actual code executes. So in here, what we can do, say if TA dot change, okay, time for the settings dot hard time frame, and in V6 now you have to say greater than 0. So what we're saying, if the higher time frame time changes, because the time for the higher time frame object, it's always the open of that candle. So it stays the same up until new candle happens. When you have a new candle, the time will change, the time variable will change. So we're saying track the time for the 15 minutes. If it does change, creating greater than 0 because it changed, then we have a new logic. So now what we can say here is candles, that's the object we created here, right? Dot add, see the add we created? So when I can say open, high, low, close. Else, candles dot update, open, high, low, close. And in this one, we just added a third parameter called see time just for demonstration. So you can say time. That's it. So all of that sets it up. I have object for settings, object for candles. We defined the settings. We declared the candles. We need to track candles. We have some variables, internal functions we want to use internally. The methods we want for candles, those methods will not show up on any other object. And as you notice, I say candles.add. I do not specify candles here. It knows this add has to be for candles. Every time I say candles dot, I see the add, render, and update. Add, render, and update. Add, update, and render. Okay, so I can say here, for example, render. That's all you need to do. I can also say here dot render. I can serialize those calls. The reason is I'm returning at the end of the update, I'm returning the object itself. Because I'm returning this object, I can serialize it. I can say update dot render dot draw whatever dot add to other objects, whatever you want to do, whatever other methods you have for the candles. Or you can say dot remove, whatever methods you have for that object. So I don't want to call render here because of performance. Usually what I do is say if bar state dot is last, then I would render. That helps with performance. I don't want to start drawing lines from bar 0 all the way to bar 10,000. I just wait till last visible bar and then we start drawing objects. Okay, so that's really the main logic. That's how you track higher time frame candles. You define which time frame you want to track. If that changed, you have internal collection tracking what's going on. You have an add, you have an update, and you have rendering. So now let's go ahead and render this one. So just save it, make sure everything compiles. Everything compiles. Nothing is displayed here because we're not outputting anything. So we're going to come to the render method. And now we need to have a body, upper wick, and lower wick. Okay, so with candle itself, let's put a box, call it body, box, line, wick high, line, wick low. Okay, so we have body, wick high, wick low. on render, we have, this is the objects. So in this case, we said we're going to do only one. So I can say candle, let's say called candle, equal to this dot first one. Now let's check the size first. If candles dot size, if this dot size, that's, by the way, that's the same way. I can say candles dot size or this. The difference is if I have, I'll show you in a minute, but say greater than 0. Why do I want to associate them with an object instead of calling directly? I could have said here, I want to have candles 2. Okay. And I want to have candles 3. Remember in my higher time frame, I have multiple time frames. That's what I do. I have different sets for higher time frame 1, time frame 2, time frame 3. By doing that, all what I have to do here is say, copy this one here. Come down here and say if time change for candles 2, and I'll need higher time frame, for example, 2, and candles 2, and you're done. I mean, it's if second higher time frame changes, you're updating second candles, and same logic will apply to this and this because both of them type candle collection. I'm hoping that's clear, but that's why you use objects. So now your code is very clean. If we have a new candle, create a new entry. We're going to update the first one. So we don't have to do anything else because once you have a new candle, it's reset. So now you're updating the latest one, whatever the latest one is. Time, we have a few minutes. Okay, so now to render it, we're going to say if the array is not empty, get the first one. And say if candle dot body, if not NA, candle dot body. And what we're saying is if we haven't drawn it before, it's a new one. I can say candle dot body. Let's see, equal to box dot new. So we need, let's use the second one, left, top, right, bottom. Okay. We're going to start with, let me define a new variable here. Int. Say we're working with time-based variables. So we need to work with time. So I'm going to say bar time equal to time frame from seconds. I think gives us seconds. No, not time frame period. Try to remember. Yeah, that's the right one. No, not from seconds, in seconds. In seconds, time frame period times 1000. Okay. So what we're saying, current time frame, if I am on 1 minute, for example, is going to return, for example, 60 seconds times 10,000. That gives you 1 minute in milliseconds. So I know each bar spans, it's that many seconds. So all that tells me is I can treat now this variable as if it's 1 bar on the screen. So I'm rendering here. I'm going to say bar new time plus, let's say bar time plus times 5. I want to move it 5 bars over from current time. And box will take the second parameter is the open. So we have left. So x-axis is the left, the top. the open. So now I can say candle.open, then time plus bar time times 7/8 candle.close. So what am I doing here? I'm going to start, and hopefully I'm doing it right, but basically I'm saying I want to start the new box from current candle time at 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start drawing it here. And it's gonna, the other border, other end is 8, so that gives me 3 candle width. So hopefully when I draw it, it's gonna give me something like this, okay? And whatever the open is, and basically the close and high and low. But I wanna get to a body that's 5 candles over up to 8 candle. And the reason you wanna do 3 is because the only way to put a wick in a bar, it has to be at the beginning. So I cannot do it like, if I do it here, not gonna help. And I cannot, there's no other place to put it. So this is 1 candle, 2, 3. So it's gonna be from here, 1, 2, 3. Okay. And hopefully I'm getting it right. So if not, I'll adjust it. I'm just working from memory. So we're gonna do the box, open, high, low, close. Next is gonna be the, what do I need to do? Let's say border color equal to settings dot border color equal to settings dot. Now I can check, let's say bool. So let's say in here color C equal to candle dot close greater than candle dot open. Then I need settings dot body bool, else settings dot body bear. Okay, so I can say this one equal to C, and I stop with not color. What's the name of it? BG color. BG color. Okay, background color. Okay, so I'm saying if body does not exist, define it here. Now I need candle dot wick high. That will be line.new time plus, if we did 5 here, we need 6 bar time times 6. So line will take the time up like x1, x2, and y1, y2. So x will be the same because wick is vertical, but y will change, and we'll need the top. For example, we can say candle dot high. Then the same time, because x-axis stays the same. And we'll say math.max. We need to, if it's bearish or bullish, we need the maximum 1. Candle dot open, candle dot close. And we need the line color. I believe it's called color. Color equal to settings dot wick. Okay, that's the high. We do the same thing for the low. Candle low, and now instead of min and max, we use min. And what I'm doing is the highest of open to close. That gives me the highest, the high to the maximum of the body, and the lower wick, the low to the bottom of the body, whatever open or close, doesn't matter. Now, if it's not new, else, we need to resize where the objects are. So now I can say candle.body dot set xy1, and I'm just copy these here. And, oh, not XY1, that's for, I think it's top, set left, top. They have a naming convention for those. Candle dot body dot set bottom, right bottom. And that gets the second coordinates. And what this is saying, every time we call render, I want to make sure if the candle never been drawn, draw it. Otherwise, resize it, move it over, whatever the time is, just to keep moving it as new candles print. And candle dot wick high dot set. Now in here we need to, because it's the high and low, set x1, xy. So top 6 is high. Candle dot wick high set xy2. Bar time max. Okay, same thing for low. Candle low. Candle low. Max becomes min. And the other one we need for the body is change in color. Candle dot body set color. BG color to C. And this is because if it goes from bullish to bearish, I want to change from red to green and so forth. Okay, that should be about it. We need to clean the lines and object. So in here, in the add, we said we get temp. So now I can say temp dot body dot delete temp dot wick high dot delete temp dot wick low dot delete. So what this is doing, going back to the add, if we have 5, we add a 6th candle, we're going to remove the oldest candle. So pop will remove it and assign it to the variable of candle. If that candle had already been drawn on the screen, we already have a 2 lines and a box, so I want to make sure that those deleted. So this is the last one being deleted. Now, what this will do, it's going to render all 5 of them on top of each other because we're not facing them. And if you want to show more than one candle, then you have to, for example, after you do the first candle, you need to calculate for the second candle for size 2, or like whenever candle get 1, you're going to multiply that by the candle plus base. And you start there and you start doing the math for the X and Y. But for now, let's do that. And again, we have not tested anything yet, so we're going to throw it on screen and see what a mess we have. Didn't draw anything right here. So we need to see what's going on. This is a line. Yeah. Plot. We need to move the plot. If the data change, higher time frame. We are 1 minute. Okay, so it's drawing someplace, or it's not drawing it at all. So we have something missing. Let's go hunt down for it. Okay, we need to come back here, take a look at the render. Yeah, this should be if NA, not if not NA. Okay, let's do an update. Back to chart. We have an error. So we're saying the object position using xlock bar index, but we are using time, so we need to modify that line back here. Have time bars. I'm going to put here xlock equal to xlock dot bar time. Copy that. And xlock basically saying, are we going to use bar index or are we going to use time-based x-axis. By default, it's bar index, so we're going to change it to bar time. Same thing, we need to do that here. We have, no, already done it here, so we don't need to do anything here. Okay, let's save that and see what's coming up. There it is. Let's zoom in. So the bar a little bit off here, so the box is a little bit too long. So let's come back here. So 5, 6, 7, not 8, 7, 7. Save it. There you go. So there you have it. This is how you create a PO3 indicator. And that's basically the code for it. I'll go ahead and post the code on the trading view. It's going to be private, so go to my name and look at the scripts and you'll see PO3. Okay, thanks everyone.